What's up, boys? I know it's super late for a review, but I have mixed in some theories, so stick around for that. We begin the chapter with Zoro and Luffy debating whether or not to free Lucci and Kaku, but before they reach an agreement, Mihawk Jr. throws a Rankyaku, a slice with his foot, because he has the power of the dice fruit, Mr. One's devil fruit. That was my and pretty much everyone else's theory, an obvious choice for the best swordsman in the world, or his clone. But I'm sure that it's a lot more important to have a high-grade sword than this ability. It's useful though if you end up in a fight without a sword. Like when Zoro participated in the Groggy Ring event of the Davy Buck fight and had to resort to the no sword style. So now it's certain that every Seraphim has a devil fruit power. The ones that haven't appeared yet from the original Shichibukai are Doflamingo, Crocodile, and Moria, or in other words, S-Flamingo, S-Crocodile, and S-Gecko, or more likely, S-Bat. Vegapunk had access to Crocodile and Doflamingo since they were prisoners in Impel Down, but Moria was never captured as far as we know. Nevertheless, they should all have their original devil fruit powers, because S-Snake has Hancock's devil fruit even though she was never imprisoned, besides when she was a celestial dragon slave, but that was like 20 years ago. But if, for some reason, S-Bat doesn't have the Shadow fruit abilities, then it should have a devil fruit from one of the Impel Down prisoners, according to the motif so far. You know, S-Shark has the devil fruit of Senior Pink, and S-Hawk, now, the devil fruit of Mr. One. In that case, there are some cool powers like Gladius's Explosion Fruit or Pika's Stone one. But if I was Vegapunk, I would go for the most broken. Sugar's Hobby no Mi, of course. It can basically one-shot anyone that doesn't have enough haki to counteract it. It also has some similarities with the Shadow fruit. They both allow the user to create and control a being. On one hand, the toy from a transformed person, and on the other hand, a zombie with a shadow of a person. Another similarity is that the person that was affected gets removed in a way. Either he gets forgotten or he has to live in the dark for the rest of his life. Anyway, let's get back to the chapter. Despite Lucci confessing that CP0 came to kill all Vegapunks, Luffy, now that he beat Kaido and he's officially a Yonko, decides to free Lucci and Kaku. Because, as he says, they can't beat him. He's too strong. Nerf Luffy. Additionally, Lucci claims that he won't attack anyone else before defeating Luffy. So we're good. We then see some cool combos that seem like fan fiction. Luffy and Lucci versus S-Bear and Zoro and Kaku versus S-Hawk. This is reminiscent of the Impel Down days when Luffy teamed up with Crocodile, Mr. 3, Buggy, all those guys that were previously enemies. The attacks did seem to do some damage, but don't forget, we were told repeatedly, the Seraphim are the strongest creatures in history. So this is definitely not enough. I also feel like now that Luffy freed Lucci and Kaku, something might go wrong. Specifically, something with the Dome shoes that will trap everyone. Everyone but the CP0 that did not change attire, and Oda went out of his way to have Zoro and Brook change recently. And more importantly, to tell us that Luffy broke his shoes. So I can see a scenario where Luffy will be up against the Seraphim plus Lucci and Kaku all by himself. Now, that would be more like the situation of Law and Kid, who are busy fighting emperors right now. We then cut to the lab underground, if I understand the layout correctly, where we see Cypher Ball agents that have been captured. We were told in chapter 1068 that Cypher Ball's ships kept disappearing after departing from Egghead. I did think it was an important detail back then, but I couldn't tie it to anything. One of the agents says 2 months before they were on Egghead for an inspection, but when they set sail, they were attacked by the sea beasts and then put into this prison cell thing they are in now. And look who's also here! freaking Vegapunk. So you're here. Where is Caribou then? Vegapunk says, sorry, I had no idea this was happening. The smartest man in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Vegapunk also claims that it should have been impossible for the government to learn about his poneglyph research. Why? Is it because he's the only sentient person on the island? Oh, and Sentomaru, I suppose. Everyone else is a robot cyborg thing programmed to assist him, right? So is the throwaway theory that I put at the end of my previous review true? The theory that the Seraphim became self-aware and turned against him. We overhear a Navy transmission and oh boy, over 100 ships are coming to Egghead. It seems almost impossible that the gang will escape now. It's funny how in the beginning of the arc, it was the exact opposite. It felt like it was gonna be too easy.
Well. How the turntables...
We move away from Egghead to a certain location in the New World, and we see a reenactment of Chapter 1, when Luffy, of course, wanted to accompany Shanks on his adventures, but got denied. Shanks is there drinking, of course, from the same sake cup he brought to Whitebeard on their meeting. His drinking gets interrupted though, because someone is attacking his crew. And then Shanks says something really interesting, that he was catching up with old friends he thought were dead. Is he talking about Dory and Broggy? That can't be, because these guys were on Little Garden dueling for the last 100 years. So when did he become their friend? Is he referring to someone from the Roger Pirates then? Is it finally time to see Scopper Gaban in real time? Now that we're on the topic of Scopper, I hope we finally solve the mystery of the guy that was talking with Crocus in that infamous cover page that spawned many theories back in the day. If Scopper is indeed here, he could have a specific role to play aiding the new Joy Boy, considering all the other members of the Roger Pirates that were seemingly strategically placed in key locations. First of all, Crocus at Twin Capes of Reverse Mountain, the literal entrance to the Grand Line. He introduced the concept of log poses, and he was the first character to mention Laugh-Tail or Raftel. Then Rayleigh at Saboti Archipelago, another place that you have to pass through in order to travel to the New World. He helped with the ship coating, but he would also provide information about One Piece, Laugh-Tail, the true history, etc. But Luffy and the Straw Hats didn't want to spoil the adventure. On the other side of the Red Line, there were Inu and Neko on Zo, and they revealed the existence of the road poneglyphs, which are necessary for locating Laugh-Tail. And now, finally, Scopper at Elbaf. Maybe. What would be his role though? Guarding the last poneglyph? I guess it's a possibility. Or maybe giving some instructions for reaching Lodestar, because besides Laugh-Tail, even Lodestar has not been visited by anyone besides Roger's crew. So it shouldn't be just any other island. Maybe you need to do something special, like riding the knock-up stream for a Sky Island or going underwater for Fishman Island. Also, I feel like Scopper maybe was on Lodestar, because if he was supposed to be on Elbaf, then Shanks should know about him. Shouldn't be surprised seeing him alive. That's if this is Scopper we're talking about. So enough speculation. We get to see Shanks' crew lineup again, similar to the scene in Marineford during his entrance. Plus Dory, Broggy, Oimo and Cassie. Oimo and Cassie, by the way, were working on Ennis lobby because they thought the government had captured Dory and Broggy. So at least now, they got their happy ending, reuniting with everyone. Killer reminds Kid of the last time they fought Shanks' crew and they took his hand. And not Shanks either, as it turns out, just one of his henchmen. This time, they'll take Kid's life, because there is absolutely zero fucking chance Shanks will lose. I bet my life on it. This duel though, between these two redheads, is a long time coming, because remember, Kid made the alliance with Hawkins and Apu to defeat Shanks specifically. It just happened that the strongest creature alive fell from the sky to ruin his plans. So now we have the matchup set up for the final part of the series and the race to One Piece. The problem is, we kinda kinda know the winners already, because neither Blackbeard nor Shanks can lose before meeting Luffy. It would be a twist, but that wouldn't be good for the story, I don't think. For Shanks, I believe he needs to meet with Luffy and acknowledge him as a great pirate first. And Blackbeard, of course, is the arch rival, the biggest obstacle in Luffy's way to becoming the king of the pirates. But let's talk about the Shanks Kid fight anyway, because why not? Similar to the fight between Law and Blackbeard, I think in the beginning we'll see Kid's crew sign against the lower tier of Shanks' crew, and maybe some showing of respect from Shanks himself. However, after that, it can only be one-sided for Shanks' team, especially if you consider the fact that Shanks not only has his whole crew with him, something that Blackbeard was lacking, but several allies in different ships, along with at least 4 giants, and he's in his home turf or whatever. Also, Shanks is the only one remaining from the original Yonko, and currently has the highest bounty among the other emperors, which should count for something. I guess there's a minuscule chance for Blackbeard to lose, but for Shanks, I don't see any way. But what happens with Kid after that? In contrast with Law, that had a whole saga centered around him, where we delved into his backstory and everything, we know pretty much nothing about Kid. What we do know is that he's kinda like the opposite of Luffy. In his introduction in Saboti Archipelago, we learn that he gained his high bounty by killing civilians, something Luffy would never do. But more specifically, Kid said that he killed anyone that laughed at his dream of becoming king of the pirates. While Luffy, when laughed at and confronted by the Bellamy pirates in Jaya, didn't fight at all because he thought it wasn't worth it, following Shanks' example. Speaking of Shanks, Shanks sacrificed his arm to save Luffy, but he was somewhat responsible for the loss of Kid's arm. And if Shanks is supposed to be Luffy's last test before going for the One Piece after succeeding in fighting him, then maybe this is the end of the road for Kid. Alright, that's it for this video. There's a break this week, so I'll make something, I guess. Thanks for watching, and peace out.